really quick, this is our final meeting, so thank you all for making the time the past, year or so. We'll get a bunch of thank yous in a minute, but the first big thing we need to get out of the way is approval of the agenda and the previous meeting minutes, which you sent out. So this motion is.
We need a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion.
Second. Okay, thank you. All in favor of approving? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. That's approved.
Or and then that was the easiest housekeeping, and now I'm gonna pass it over to our county executive if you wish to.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to stop in because it was your last meeting, and mostly thank you, because I know this is a lot of work and not always easy. And obviously I live in this region, so I think I know a fair number of you. We're pretty good about the people that we put on to be the stewards of the land, and I know that there's a lot of consensus on some basic things in South County. I think South County rural, but hopefully got into some of the more difficult things like I work in housing, the commercial areas that we need, housing need. I mean, I often tell people who say, there's a lot of people who say South County is where the development should happen because there's all this land. Why not the corridor of Route 2 should be, this big commercial corridor? People on the council in the past who said that, put a little bit of that with this council, not as much as maybe some. But what they haven't understood very well is the basic concept of smart growth. It says that it is actually good financially for the county to have parts of the county that are rural. That's why a lot of counties have the rural demarcation line, different ways that they do it. And it's not as formal as that here. It's more the tradition. But you don't have to put in the kind of infrastructure that you have to put everywhere else. And then quality of life, folks love to have a little part of it. Of course, people like to eat food, so it's nice to have farms that actually commercially viable and produce food. So it's interesting that when your farmers go to the county council, they generally get what they ask for. Often when I was involved, we would go around the county leaders, executive, and bureaucracy sometimes and say, building permits on our farms because they have structures and I and he would be pulling their hair out, and the council would vote yes. And I think that's just because there is this general support for rural and farms. It is difficult to do the regulation side of it when you're in a county, things are modernizing and rules are being established for suburban and urban areas, and rules apply to farms. So that's where there's struggle. But for the zoning and the land use, I think that's a basic that we just have to maintain, because if the value of the farmland becomes so high that it doesn't make sense to farm it, we're in trouble. So, and the other thing I want to say about the stakeholder advisory committees and the region plans is there was a period where we stopped doing that. There was a smaller area planning. I think most of you have heard about. There were 16 of those. And I remember getting copies of all of them. I think maybe the last 20 copies when I was running for county executive, and I was looking around, what the plan says. And then when I came into office, I said, can we get a review of all the things that were actually in the plans of what was accomplished and what wasn't. So I really was there at the time, and that was a lot of work in the carriers there. But at the same time, we did a meeting countywide about smart growth, where we brought in Smart Growth America, and a lot of people showed up, a few hundred people actually. And I feel like over the last 7 years, one of the things that I feel best about is that people are starting to understand the value of basic smart growth principles. You want to have open space, you want to have protect forests, you want to have farms, you want to have infrastructure where you have development, where you're growing, and it's smart to build the infrastructure before you do the development, of course, but that doesn't just happen. And we actually need housing. We need a place for the workforce of this county in order for our economy to thrive. And I feel like people have moved incrementally in a good direction on that. Public gentlemen. And one of the things about the stakeholder advisory committees is that now you all have sat through a process where you've learned a ton. You've learned about what your neighbors care about, you've thought about what we care about, and you've learned about planners, long-range planners, about, how to do this. So you, I hope, will stay involved and be advocates for the implementation of the plan for the things you believe in, and you better educate them. That's always, it's great when you can go down to the county council and know more than they do, as much as they do about land use in your area, and educate them. It's how it should be. So that's really all I'm saying. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And please stay involved. I guess the last thing I'm going to say is, I know you all have, I've already walked in with the rooms and heard from a number of you about what a great job staff has done on this. And I would say that from my perspective, it is pretty extraordinary. You know, these maps don't come to me until after they go to the PAB and before they go to the council, and they'll just take a look at them and say what they think. And it's just amazing to me how much information, how much knowledge they acquire about every little parcel, and it makes my job a whole lot easier. And it makes it possible for the council to make hopefully wise decisions, or at least have the right information. And it's just really good at what they do. They're great public service. That's all I got. Unless anybody has any questions or comments.
Thank you so much.
What?
Thank you so much for being here. Does anybody have any questions for County Executive Pittman?
Are we doing anything about it seems like there's a proliferation of traffic accidents on the roads of South County, and it just keeps going on and on and on. And to me, it's very frustrating. I don't know if it's lack of enforcement or we have a bunch of reckless drivers.
Yeah, I mean, traffic in general is one of the hardest things to fix. Once it's already started, it gets worse and gets worse. The traffic safety people, the people of PW roads, and they're constantly trying to tweak things on the county roads where they can. The police department is doing more things. We've got the speed camera system set up now where we can put them in some places temporarily if the community requests that speeding is the issue. State roads, around 424 and 2 where there's some terrible accidents. They're planning to put in now finally a stoplight, but there's some people who don't like that idea because it's a roundabout thing. We took that to them and they said, no, stoplight, that's how we do things. Some people will love it, some people will hate it. But there's always this effort going on to try to reduce the number of accidents. But we didn't have more cars on the roads. People aren't used to these country roads and get their speed up. It's a constant. It's certainly being monitored.
Yeah.
It's
Staying on the roads topic, do you think we could do more of a public briefing, but on like a website? What's going on with current road construction or something along that? Because it's really not very easy to find out. For example, if you look at like Route 3, I think the same section of Route 3 has been under construction for 2.5 years now. Nothing has happened for a year and a half. So like just posting like, here are current county projects. Here's when they're supposed to be done, stuff like that. Because if you try to find out, it's like impossible.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can do that on the county website. Like here's major road construction areas, and just like timeline. They're just start here, plan to finish here. It doesn't have to be super detailed, but just so people understand what's going on with all the roads, like traffic light coming, stuff like that.
Yeah. You have the capital budget and you can look where's the status of it, but you don't get the details. We can say that it's design or we can say it's construction. If one would have created a problem with contractor. And then they still haven't started to work on the real plan for Route 3, but that's in design. Right. And that takes years. And we've had a task force working on how to speed up public projects, and now we're taking some projects like the Edgewater Rec Center. And we're like, okay, we're not even going to do it as government, as DPW, we're going to give it to the Community Resilience Authority, which can bypass a lot of regulations, conditions faster, and government needs to learn how to work faster, and it's a big thing right now. We're all working on it, but it's hard. So. Oh, yeah, I've patient. Not. For all of you that just say thank you, and they say in recognition of your commitment to animal Region 8 Stakeholder Advisory Committee planning process. As the chair of the Stakeholder Advisory Committee for the region, you have selflessly volunteered your time and expertise to create a vision for a healthy, livable, and vibrant. We're grateful for your work that will continue to shape our communities for years to come. Thank you for your excellent work. Extend to you our most heartfelt appreciation. Extend our best wishes to all of your endeavors, and thank you for helping to make Anne Arundel County the best place for all. Yes. So we can do that. Yeah, I know you're trying to go on. You guys have a lot to cover still, right? Yeah, a few things to cover. Don't come in here to a town hall.
Yeah, we're gonna go to public comment next, and, we do, I think we do have a good number of people that would like to comment, so we probably want to do that.
Okay. And I have another meeting all the way back.
Okay.
Well,
So for the public, we're gonna have a public comment, and the way that works is everybody gets 2 minutes, and then, you'll do a timer, so you're gonna get the group, just wanna make a public comment, that will be fantastic, we would absolutely love that. How many people here do you have that would like to make a public comment today? 1, 2, 3. Pretty good. We're gonna do 3 minutes each.
I'll do a 3-minute timer, I'll give you a 30-second warning, then you have 30 seconds left. And we please be respectful of everybody's time, you do not go ahead.
Okay, who would like to go first? Okay. If you could just introduce yourself, and where you're going to go into your.
Okay, my name is Bruce Stein, I represent the Civil Area Civil Association, an association of approximately 300 or more people in the state of Arundel. We recently found out about the proposal for the daily zoning at Homestead Farm, the region. We met with Brian Little from Homestead Farm, our friend over here, and the board decided that we propose change. Now, without me taking up everybody's time to explain why I submitted a letter that I don't know whether everybody had a chance to see the meeting. Christina has just handed out our letter explaining our reasons why we propose. And if there are any questions, I'll close my comments there.
Does anybody have any questions for that?
Thank you.
I think that should be a little.
Yeah.
Did you all discuss like any possibility of something in between what's the current zoning and what's the current request?
It was discussed, but there was really no discussion in detail about that. It's not our job to decide that. We're in a yes or no thing. Certainly, there's another proposal. Would be more than always down in the homestead garden prior to go and discuss it. Right now, we have to see that.
Was there discussion about what's currently happening there? Is there an uncomfortableness with what's existing now?
We, as the decision, are perfectly happy with what's going on in now to use to operate that way when it's happening. Okay.
Thank you.
The biggest fear that we have is that when we change zoning years from now, something bad. And I think in every community where suddenly we're getting 84 houses being built right next to it due to the zoning change that was made
many years ago. So that's kind of the scenario that we worried about in support. Homestead Garden, great now, 50 years from now, who knows? And the other thing is that if the C4 were concerned that every 3 years look at water and sewer pipe and say, oh, they're not served, we need to start moving those into that. And you know,
Thank you.
anything else? Thank you much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I always stay on that same topic. My name is Phil Hager. I'm with Hager Land Use, and I want to talk about two submittals that I have made recently for your consideration. First of those is Homestead Gardens. I want to thank Dave and Bill Harris for the time last week when we met with them. Bruce is right. We did discuss other options, and I will say that I and the owner are more than willing to discuss some other options and most things that could be examined as part of this. I think it's important to notice that this property is a 40-acre property. You're all familiar with it. You know what's located there, and you know what's going on. It's also important that you realize that this is a business complex, and there's actually 9 separate uses taking place at that location. Garden center, plant sales, farm supply, landscaping business, brewery, cultural and educational events, delivery and logistics, small engine and vehicle repair, and professional offices. So when you take a look at this property, it's zoned RA, which is agriculture, but there's a lot more going on there than just agriculture. When you're actually there, you don't feel like you're in an agricultural setting unless you're in the section where they have where they're growing the material for the brewery. So some of these activities can be accommodated as they have been accommodated within the RA zoning district. The challenge with that though is that they can only be done through special exception, through non-conforming use, or the fact that they've just been existing in this location for so long. The challenge with that is if you go to try to get funding from a bank to upgrade a facility or do renovations, you cannot get funding based upon non-conforming use or a special exception. You need the clear zoning to be able to do that. The other aspect is that if it is approved by a special exception and you do wish to change it, modify it, or enlarge it, you have to go back and get another special exception. Each time you do these things, we're talking about between $80,000 and $100,000 for just the process associated with those things. So it is very expensive, very challenging, and very difficult. And it's important that we be able to continue to have this operation. This is a jewel for South County. It is a staple within this county. I also want to talk about a place that maybe some of you are familiar with in Cockeysville, that is called Valley View Farm. It's very similar to Homestead Gardens. And Baltimore County has chosen to zone that property BR, which is the equivalent of C4 in Anne Arundel County. Also, Homestead Gardens in Severna Park is zone C3. So it's appropriate that we look at some type of a zoning increase for this property. And it may be possible that we could look at keeping a portion of the property in an RA setting to accommodate what's there, but where we have clearly retail activities and activities that need to be upgraded, we need a higher destination. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to entertain this before I move on to the next case.
Do you give me any specifics of what the other homestead want to do now that they're not able to do with their?
There's nothing that they have in the plan right now to make any changes on the property. It's just a matter of making sure they can continue to offer those services. And it's very possible that any one of those things might need a renovation or some other type of thing that they can't do because they don't have the zoning approval to do. Yes, sir.
I don't have much forward, but what you're saying makes sense. You're not gonna change the landscape itself. You're a good neighbor, we've been there, I feel for you, and you've done it. For me, it makes sense, but I don't know why.
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
So if they wanna, I just understand, but if they wanna upgrade the facilities that they have, and change like renovate the building or something like that, because of the zoning, that would be very difficult.
It does, yeah, it does, particularly if you want to change the footprint of any of the existing buildings that are there by a special exception or non-conforming use, or that would require a special exception in order to do that. It makes no sense whatsoever.
And you said it costs an extra $100,000
Well,
just because of the zoning, usually.
What will be required is that there's a long and involved process that you have to go through in order to do this. You'll have to go to a hearing officer, depends on the board zoning appeal. You'll have to retain some joker like me, and get to pay my fees. You're also gonna have to retain the services of an attorney and a civil engineer. They're gonna have to produce drawings, specs, and a lot of other things that go into that. Plus whatever it is that you're gonna do, you need to hire an architect, a builder, or whatever it is, just to do the stuff that you wanna do. Did I hear you say there were 6 parcels? No, there's multiple parcels, there's 9 different uses taking place.
Right, yeah, okay, so you said there were multiple parcels, and I think you said that the property owner was willing to consider zoning changes on some of them.
We're willing to look at things that would make sense for us to work. We understand that we're asking you to swallow a pretty big bill, going from RA to C4. At the same time, you know, this is a unique operation within all of South County. And it is appropriate that we donate something that would enable us to do what's necessary. Yes, ma'am.
So to this point, has there been any point where the county has denied your request to be able to expand into the operations you have? And then the other question to that is, I know there's some like ag tourism bills that are coming or have gone through. Have any of that also made it a little bit easier for you all to expand in the way you would like?
The ag tourism legislation has been enormously helpful to much of South County and particularly to portions of this particular business. The owners of this site, and Ryan says is regretting wasn't able to be here this evening, is a good neighbor and a good citizen, and they pride themselves on being in compliance with the rules. There has never been something that they've tried to do that the county has said they can't do. That's not a concern. It's just a matter of the hoops that we need to go through in order to do them and the cost associated with it. It's time and money. Yes, that is unnecessary, in my opinion. Good. Emily?
Well, he may have just answered my question, but are they currently out of compliance on any part of their property?
They're not out of compliance, but they are what was called in a couple of uses, they're non-conforming uses, which means that they're legal. But if you try to change them, you have to go back and get a special exception to make that happen. And it's possible that special exception could be denied.
We'll get to your public comment.
This is a question.
Yeah, I know, but this is, this group here. Yeah, but you can make your comment afterwards.
No, what, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ann. I believe that's it for questions. I appreciate your time and I appreciate I ask for your respect and consideration of this request. The second item has to do with a new request that was submitted, but it is associated very closely with one that was previously associated or previously submitted. It has to do with the property located at 901 Bayfront Road. All right. So thank you very much. We now have a picture of where it is. The property I'm talking about is the one right there in the corner where the cursor is being shown. That's a 2.66 acre parcel that was recently acquired by J.P. Schiff, who is my client in this matter. And the property immediately to the south of there is a 6.02 acre property that was previously submitted. The properties are currently zoned RA, and the request was to make that parcel where the cursor is right now C1, which is the lowest intensity of commercial zoning. The parcel immediately that we could submit it as an application. A two-part request, both of which are going into the lowest level of commercial zoning. You will see that there's quite a number of roadways in that area. In fact, there are 3 major arterials. This is a major throughway through South County for people going to other parts of this county as well as Prince George's County and in some cases into Washington, D.C. this area is not really, it's not really focused on farming anymore. In these particular parcels right in this area, it's no longer appropriate that we maintain the RA zoning. And in fact, we do need a little bit of services for the people of this county who, particularly those people who are commuting by there every day. Couple of thoughts that have been discussed is that a screening need for daycares in this area, also possibly for a veterinary facility and maybe a small pharmacy or something like that. But given the fact that we are bordering these major arterials and the roadway traffic that we have, it's incumbent to take a look at whether or not we have the need for some additional commercial zoning in this area, so we are requesting it for these two parcels. The owner of the property is here with me and is asked to have a moment also, and I'm going to retire at this point in time unless anyone has any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so, we've been acquiring, all of the property, and, so, we're in the process of actually working on it right now, drive back, in the road, being constructed, to property, 58, so, after we bought the big parcel, 72 acres, 5, that are pictured right there, I approached the owner, who I bought the original 5 from, and said, hey, this other property at the corner of it, and I really would like to have it as well, because it's, it's a weird spot. So fortunately, he was like, accepting of the idea, and, I have a bunch of young families, that I'm in connection with, because I have a young family. So we all share a very similar sentiment, that there's a severe lack of daycare coverage kind of in South County and around the area. And so, I did like a small survey, and, again, these are people in my demographic that have small kids. And I said, hey, where most of you guys are taking your kids to daycare? Most of them that live down here, particularly travel pretty significant distance. They don't pass daycare on the way to work, but, a lot of work to see. So I said, hey, Bill, I really think there's an opportunity here for us to locate a daycare, at this corner, because it's a really, busy byway where a lot of traffic is feed in the city, and it, will be a very low impact on the community. I'm actually building homes on the other sites that are here, with the other company that was trying to build. And so, there's going to be a lot of complicated small families as well, and we're all going to share a problem that we need daycare. And so, I'm specifically saying on that very corner that it's all wooded, there's no way, it was never farmed, it never will be farmed. It's not a property that was ever considered that. And so, yeah, we love that corner property to be able to have that opportunity to put the daycare there. And currently, with building requirements, that C1 designation is what we would need to achieve that. So the other property adjacent to it, down with having a look at it, it'd be nice to have them both so that we had the ability to have a little space. Yep, and open for any questions.
There's a quick question for Eric. Can a daycare center be run as a small business?
Small business?
Yeah, I know, because we discussed that in Davidsonville where there was, you wouldn't need C1 zoning. Are you aware that there are commercial properties across the street that are vacant?
I am aware that they are not ideal in terms of their facility, their location. They are, district, I don't know if you've been by there, they're not in good shape. And
Yeah, there's a deli thing closed for a few years. There's a gas station that's still viable, and the other commercial ones actually residential. And those are throwbacks. If you look at Southern Maryland Boulevard on the map, that was the old alignment route for So when those areas were zoned commercial 50, 70, 80 years ago, there was a reason, because that was the traffic coming from Calvert County around here. And I don't disagree with you that there may be a need for daycare, but what I'm saying is there are existing commercial properties. There's a strip mall that's down where Route 4 touches fixed that has vacancy.
I mean, there are plenty of viable places to put this.
You know, I would argue that, you know, just as it says it's pink, doesn't mean it's viable. So, you know, I'm in construction, I build things all the time, so in terms of an actual daycare that needs all the facilities, I mean, the real daycares in 2025 have an extensive, you know, array of land being used for, you know, their playground area, you know, educational facilities. You know, I'm not talking about a room that holds children, I'm talking about a true daycare that meets all facets of, you know, educational, you know, things that the kids need, so, yep,
What is on the properties currently?
not.
Wood,
Trees, literally, yeah, trees and wood, yeah, and they're not in any, you know, tree, they're not in concrete.
understand, but to his point, we've had a lot of discussion about redevelopment. And I understand if you don't think it may not be viable at this point, but if you're in construction, I would think that it could be certainly a possibility to consider. But I understand also if it's not for sale, that's huge.
Well,
The hugest hurdle for sure.
Yeah,
but
and
Certainly redevelopment is not something to just sniff. I mean, I think that's very, very important for our region. And we've been talking about a lot in the area.
What did you say was in the pink area above it right now?
So right now, there is there's a gas station slash garage at the very end of that, border Frank Road. Then you have it's been shut down for about 5 years now, deli.
Yeah.
It's now overgrown. Yeah, I mean, it went out.
Yeah.
And then the other one's private residence. Yeah,
Are you building on the?
I'm building five.
well, you're building 5 now, but remember, those 4 parcels are in for, R1 zone. As
Yeah,
part of
and,
the
you know, I think we're fully aware that that's not going to be supported. So it's clear. You know, but again, you know, if you guys, you know, if you want a place where people want to live, okay, I think that we're all into that. Revitalizing areas where you make them a place that are appealing actually increases the value of all of the area around it. So that corner there on that is horrific. I mean, it looks like someplace that I wouldn't want to live, but I will be living so far. No one wants to buy that because it's not, you can't do much with it. It's an awkward size, only 3 different parcels. You gotta convince 3 different people to hopefully buy all the pieces. Not likely. So I guarantee you, if I put a nice daycare on that corner where nothing else is gonna be located, but it could be a house, I have the ability to put a house there. But if I put a nice daycare there and I, you know, make it be nice like I know I will, it will attract the area to bring revitalization. So, you know, I get it, you know, no one wants change. But, you know, that.
What, you know, if this gets rezoned, you know, what is a guarantee that the daycare goes in there and not another Rofo or whatever else? Or you got a ton of those.
Yeah, so Royal Farms P4 zoning, so you can't put a gas station. You would have to people. And so there, and I don't want a gas station next to my house. So because I'm gonna be living on the 37-acre lot. So I thought that the daycare would be very easy to not obstruct anybody that lives there. They're in operation during the day. They're not there at night. They're gone during the weekends. So, you know, this is a really low impact, you know, type of business. So I would be happy to guarantee that that was only the thing that was going, will be going. But I told you today to talk about that. So yeah, I would be happy to make sure that that is the only thing that would go there. Because that's the only thing that I want to go there. When I'm gonna be living right next door. So, you know, that's, again, you know, I understand that no one's downtown wants to see anything ever change. But at some point, we have to make some, you know, adjustment to bring, you know, people need these services. It's not true. So people are driving much farther than what they need to, because there is nothing else available.
Have you been able to listen to the other meetings, like leading up to this? Because I think it's important to recognize, like, we fully support responsible redevelopment. We recognize that things do need to change here, and we want to do that in a smart way that helps the agricultural community, that helps the existing communities, like updating, we talked about with Wasted Corner, how can we responsibly revitalize that? And so I definitely appreciate everything you're saying. I have 3 kids, almost 3 kids under 5, so I totally 100% agree. The lack of daycare down here is very frustrating. But I do want to be cautious that like there is so much opportunity for redevelopment here. To see this kind of dramatic shift in the property is a little concerning.
Do you want your kids to have daycare with this corner?
I mean, they could, absolutely. Yeah, I love that area.
Waiting corner is an array of things,
Mhm.
you know, again, I can't control what goes on in Waiting corner. Okay, I think having the kids having a little bit of separation from kind of the busyness of that area. A lot of trains and traffic go through there, again, I think that the setting that can be placed here is way more attractive for a daycare and a family that, you know, looking for a daycare. They're gonna wanna be there over 1.5 miles. So, you know, I get it, I'm just speaking about reality, right? I'm a consumer just like everyone else, so if I have a choice, I'm 100% taking this location for my kids, if it's available.
So I would encourage us all to kind of keep the conversation going. We're going to talk about this property later tonight, but we do have more public comment to get to, as well as another discussion topic before we get to the zone. So.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I know, it's like, I want to encourage everybody to.
We were talking about redeveloping at the gas station.
Yeah,
Now, I have a question, and John, and maybe you can answer this before you can, if you're in construction. How much cleanup is required if we put kids on the gas station? But that's, that's not, well, I mean, no, because somebody said, use that land that's already there and redevelop.
I one other thing, I think it's a little unfair here. That corner, that triangle of pink is a gas station, it is right there, that little sliver is a gas station.
Yeah.
And 3 other parcels where businesses that have failed and are no longer there, so. The gas station is there.
That's correct.
It's
The gas
yeah, I know
station.
it is. Yeah. it's not- Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I just have to figure around the fact that there are a lot of daycare in total also.
Small business.
Yeah. On, and I think we have how many more people per thousand comments do we have? Is there anybody else in the public that would like to comment to the group? You're passed, you sure? Okay, we'll open it back up at the end if anybody else would like to.
So as we transition back, I just want to make a note to everybody in the room, this is again the final SAC meeting, this is an SAC workshop. So this is a meeting for the SAC members to discuss and come up with a recommendation on different topics. So when there's discussion going on, it's within the group of metals. Please keep that in mind, try to be respectful of each of everybody. So given that, again, the next big piece tonight is going to be a discussion of the region plan document itself. We'll get to zoning in a minute after the region plan, but I want to make sure there's equal time for both major pieces of the work you guys have been doing. First, thank you for everybody who has sent emails regarding comments, for giving photos. As you can see, there was very empty, a lot of placeholders. So I know the people who sent photos, I really appreciate it. We'll incorporate those throughout where we can. But if you have photos that you're really passionate about and really you think show the character of Region 8, send them our way. We'll include them as best we can and make sure the work you guys contribute is added in that way as well. As we start this conversation and discussion, I want to make 2 points. First, this tonight is what you guys may have. We can, there is only 4 new zoning applications and then the wrap up of the region plan document itself. And then we can talk about anything else you guys want to talk about. If you don't want to talk about anything else, we can leave and we can be on our way. If you want to be here later, we can make sure we have time to, again, this is the final opportunity for you guys to work as a group, to make sure you're comfortable with your recommendation moving forward. And I don't want to make sure staff, we don't want to take that away. So we want you to leave this room comfortable and happy as best as you can, moving forward. Next slide, please. And ideally, we're all on the endorsement side, but what we're really trying to do is get to that middle, the building consensus seen before. So again, like, I want to make sure we've all felt we've been able to talk about everything we want to talk. The second thing is, regarding the plan and document itself, please try to minimize the comments about wordsmithing tonight, or including reframing sentences, stuff of that nature. Email us. We'll gladly take a look at that. We'll have our communication there. Again, this conversation kind of is really thinking about doing this. There's something that we talked about as a group that is not in the plan that we need to, or is there something in the plan that completely missed the mark that we as staff thought we heard was actually incorrect? Those kind of comments. Right? We want to make sure we heard you correctly, heard you clearly, and we did our best. So again, I guess now I'll open up to the group. If there's any comments, any questions, or anything you all want to discuss about the plan, we can kind of get that ball
rolling. You've already addressed photos, and thank you, yes. I'm gonna send some photos, and I'm sure other people will too. My overall comment about the photos, is might agree, is from the county, and these photos really want to show the beauty of. And I expressed it in my notes to you guys, I was confused by the structure. I don't know if that's something that can be fixed, or if there's a format and follow what the other.
Yeah, so to answer that, I'll take a deeper dive into your message channel. But we did try to be as consistent with the other 8 regions through this plan. So if it's a setup of chapters like these, we're not gonna be able to really touch that. But if it's something within the chapter, I'll definitely look at it.
And just to add to that, the chapters follow Plan 2040, which was split into the healthy economy, healthy communities, natural environment, and built environment. And so that's why all of the regions follow that structure.
No, that makes sense, that was fine, it was the design, thing. It was hard to tell, oh, we're in the new section. Oh, why is it called introduction multiple times for us? It was more of a pattern.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at your notes and kind of see what we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely. I will relay it to the group actually. Because on one thing too, this plan document will be sent to the PAB in the next couple of weeks. So any ideas and revisions that may come from tonight or via email, we'll incorporate ideally before the PAB draft. But if you can't get into your comments before the PAB draft, still try to as quickly as possible, because we still have a little bit of time before the county council. But ideally, we want this as buttoned up and as perfect as possible prior to planning advisory.
Pretty big document. I definitely plan. I did print it finally, and there's several pages, and I'm planning to go through every single page. And I will be scanning it and I guess emailing it to see if there's anything in there at all. But it's quite a document. You know, thank you for all the work that you all have done on it. From what I could glance at, it seems like it captures the majority of it. I did feel like there were some opportunities in there to maybe clarify a couple things. And the pictures, of course, we already talked about that. And I've encouraged everyone, I put a post out there asking for images. Sent some requests specifically to people who probably have beautiful county Indian images. Of course, if anybody in the public has any and they wanted to submit it, that would be fantastic. Just, you know, some kind of iconic photos of this region.
Flag on my wall.
Eric and Jessica and the crew will get to kind of filter through and see what fits in it and all that good stuff, but I agree, I think we can really improve that part of it. Did anybody else have any specific or more general comments about the?
Just, the Duncan's family campground is no longer there. It's called Adventure Banner. Just a little editorial comment.
Good one, good catch.
Hmm,
Good catch.
yeah,
And with pictures, I would strongly recommend captions.
Like the why. What are we looking at here?
What are you? Yeah, you know, a lot of things I recognize, but then there was a random thing.
Please send pictures and
If
definitely think we could do a long ask to try to get them from Doug Bay. I personally send in things from farms, some kids with animals, horseback riding. That kind of thing, think anything that we can do that really depicts our area would be fantastic.
Yeah, we're shooting for the.
Alright, you
The
can.
best, for anybody listening, the best way to send us pictures is region 8, number 8, AA County. And that'll send it to me, Jesse, maybe even send it to Christina as well as other staff. So you're gonna be sure to get this. Thank you.
The region 8, the number 8 at aacounty.org. Okay.
And if you're more comfortable sending directly to me, I believe you all have my email from my 1,000 emails section.
Just really quick, I was able to read through it a bit, and I was very excited to see a lot of the discussion that we had talked about with like things like the sidewalks and like the community center in the Oasis area that all made it into the plan, so that was very encouraging, and hopefully more continue to grow in as it goes to KB and the county council. But yeah, I think there's a right. So that was awesome.
And again, not to rush anybody or rush the conversation, but if the conversation is finished, we would need a motion to approve the draft regional plan and recommend sending it to the planning council.
So I would just make a motion that with a little bit of an edit that you said, how much time do we have left to send you? Comments?
I would say 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So what would that date be? And we want to send it back out to this group or we get September 3rd. Okay. So can someone make a motion then to approve this, knowing that we can make edits sent to Eric, Jessica and company no later than September 3rd?
I make a motion.
Second, okay, all in favor? Opposed?
Eric, can I know, the cover, it says the communities that are covered in it, but it says it's all of them.
Okay.
So communities are mentioned in the report and appear in the.
That's great. Obviously, the date and finalization wasn't there, but yeah, thank you, that's a great. So we can take a break till 7 o'clock, if you guys want, or we can keep going, right? I know it's super early.
get it on.
But there are some food, some snacks, feel free, it's our way of, with our little budget in the OPZ office, say thank you to you all. We do, again, have some citations we'll pass out to you before you leave. But be sure to take some snack, we try to get a little bit of gluten-free, some healthy options, and so we did our best. Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Anybody need a 5 minute or we keep going?
Now, one other.
Yeah,
And I just heard that when I was driving in, DC area, and the highest unemployment rate in the country. A lot of the federal stuff in Maryland and Virginia are closed. We have a statistic in here about employment and unemployment rate, it's from 2023. Oh, I'm sorry. The unemployment statistic in this report is from 2023. Is it possible to update some of those things?
I'll look into it. I know we rely solely on, or heavily on census data. I know we do it 3 to 5 years as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this year's data will be reflected. Because I know we have to finalize by the end of this year, 2025. I don't know when that date, I think that data is simply available in March-ish of the following. So I don't think we'll be able to capture, unfortunately. But now, one thing I have, we talked about today with internally, we're trying to figure out what to do next with our hub sites. And I know our hub site data will be updated. So there will be ways to find more state data when it gets to that point. But I think unfortunately, given just how the timeline of everything's fallen into place, we may not be able to fully reflect the issue with the federal government.
Yeah, and actually I'll add to that because this comes from the American Community Survey. What will issue for current time period with only 1 year estimate, for much less detail, both geographically and, really have to wait 5 years. It's up for the part of the county.
Yeah, I'm still looking at it, stuff reason about from BLM for.
Yeah.
In turmoil right now. Yeah, it just seems very dated and someone has,
Agree.
and it's going to happen. An impact on this area though. And perhaps it's a little caveat, saying, as a publication date, unemployment figures have risen to according to stuff. Something so it doesn't sound so dated and clueless about
What's actually, yeah,
impacts that are happening.
that's a very good point. Thank you.
I think eventually it's just gonna flip the data, but we don't know that, and, we'll see. Only the future will tell.
That's right.
Or even though the federal dependent, the number of federal jobs.
A lot of that is,
It's a flip.
We're gonna stay focused here, sorry.
So yeah, as we move forward and here we talk about the zoning, I just want to reiterate a couple of things. First and foremost, the ethics and conflict of interest. If you feel there is a conflict of interest you may have for whatever reason, it's, we kind of ask you to just recuse yourself from a formal vote. Can discuss, can be part of it. But again, and we are all advisory staff, advisory, you all are advisory, so there is that component. But again, if you believe there's a conflict of interest, I would just encourage you to do yourself. And then finally, I wanted to show again how the final charts will look. And again, I'll show the change number, address. This is from Region 9, and then some identifying numbers of the property. And then what the SAC recommended, the justification from the SAC, and then as well as PAB, and then the overall final recommendation is aka staff recommendation, and then the justification. This is an example of what was sent to the county council for Region 9, one for Region 8 will look identical to this, obviously with Region 8 components. But again, you'll be able to see each breakdown from you, staff, and PAB, all in one document. And we're hopeful that we'll have a chart available of everything you all have discussed in the coming weeks. So before we get to the new zoning applications, there were a couple of staff recommendations that we created. You have not seen these yet. I did not include them on the Survey Monkey. There were only 3, and all of these staff recommendations were created based on public comment from the preliminary review. So when the preliminary review was out for the summertime, we heard from 3 people about their property specifically, how if you all remember, we talked about the OS recommendations, and if it was greater than 20% open space environmental features, we did not recommend a change. We sent letters to those people saying, hey, you have greater than 20% open space in your property with environmental features. We're not recommending on changing your property, but you should comment if you like. Each of these 3 staff recommendations are those is an example of that. So each of these examples is someone who has at least 20% of open space on their property that has some environmental features on there. And they said, no, I don't want the open space. I want all RA in this example. And you can see the address of each property, acreage of each property on top, and then the recommended change of each OS, or all of it goes to R, which is again the lowest intent residential, and this is our residential agricultural zone.
Can we pull them up so we can see?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the first one. The layer it's currently on is the adopted zone. So the darker green shade is the open space zoning, that OS zoning, and the lighter green shade is RA, rural agricultural. In this case, these folks requested that we were. The entire property we don't, so. Keep in mind that if they go to develop, they still have to meet any environmental regulations in the code, it's just that there's only what we need.
So in this example, the only thing that would be changed is this area. And there is currently a house site.
And that's the first one,
Yes.
That's the first.
and that's 0.7 acre.
Yes.
Right. And then the second one is the same situation, we're all the same situation. This one has a little more obvious of what the environmental feature is, because as you can see, there's a stream that runs through a stream or a creek that runs right through the middle. Again, the open space is the dark green, only the dark green would be changing. Any future development, if there were to be any, would have to meet the environmental protection.
What's on the property now?
I believe it is a vacant site.
The open space doesn't mean like public space.
Correct.
Okay.
But it means they couldn't put a house on it.
They could do very little.
So basically, you're giving potentially the opportunity, as long as they meet all the criteria, to build on it a house. Or a barn.
Or in the case of a property that's already developed, even if they don't have enough acreage to subdivide and build another house, they could put like a deck or something that is not permitted in the open space, but is permitted in the RA zoning, assuming they meet all environmental regulations.
Can you zoom out? I can't put that in context.
This is 214 right here, Central Ave. And then the road we're on is the Tuxtec River, so over here is the county boundary.
The post office, Marcus.
I got you. Okay, got you.
And then the last one is two properties, but they have the same owner and are right next door to each other. Bear with me, I think the address on them is, it comes up a little funky.
That's right.
It's this line. Oh, no, it's these two down here, that's what it is.
So you have the dark green, and as you, I don't know if you can tell. So you can, there's a bunch of streams running through, you see all that water, so there's a lot of environmental protection. So, which is why initially, again, this property received a letter like the other two properties, so you have greater than 20% environmental protected land. But if you have open space, we're not going to change that. But if you would like that, let us know. Again, the reason to help change the open space, again, it's Plan 2040 goal, or it's Plan 2040 directive, to really make sure the open space is what it's supposed to. Really, there's parcels that are entirely floodplains, or entire HOA property, dedicated areas, or parks, stuff of that nature, not more arbitrary pieces or sections of property.
Where exactly is that?
This one, we're right on the boundary with Region 9, this is Maryland 2 coming down. This is kind of like the dip in Friendship area, where like we go down to the county boundary right there, and then it goes down further. So we're like, in Friendship, I'm trying to think if there's anything.
So it's on the west side of Route 2.
Yes, it's on the west side of Route 2, kind of near the intersection of Route 2 and Old Solomon.
So where's the actual parcel? Okay. Yeah.
Here's my two, and here's Old Solomon.
Is that the one in Friendship? Is that the old?
Yeah, I mean, I live right across the street from it, so I'm trying to envision it. You have Shribner Court right below it.
Okay.
Subdivision. And then, so I'm not even sure what the property grade is.
That's Region 9, that's a different region.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah, it does, okay, that's odd to put it there, but that's top boundary. So this is on the west side of that, right?
Correct.
I think there's some stuff back there. They used to have a farm thing back there, but I'm trying to think, isn't there a residence or two back there?
I don't know if these lots themselves are developed residences. I know we're near the Bay Country.
And well, that's all those. subdivision down there, bottom left. I mean, there are some low-lying areas back there,
So that's a lot of water back there.
but, yeah.
And so RA essentially would allow for, how big is that? It's 90 some acres,
97, I think.
basically 1 for 20. So you're looking at 3 houses.
But it's already zoned at OS and RA.
Yeah, there's about currently 40 acres of RA ones.
So you're basically bringing them.
They were allowed for one more house. Right now, allowed two with the, well, I know, right, we got allowed with 2 more right now.
And this is assuming they would want to build a home. RA allows for other things such as farming and stuff that OS doesn't.
Oh, it's church property, okay.
That's probably not correct. So there's a lot of regulations that have to come into play for a house which we developed this.
It's not really a traffic issue. There's the gray property, church property. So it's kind of church, it's kind of low line. And I don't think there's any back there right now. They'd be accessing. Where is Bull Road on it? Is that
You saw it.
Well, road is the south.
oh, it's the south. Oh, so this is further. Okay. So this is the, there are so many different old Solomon Island roads. Yeah. The old line and the Route 2, that sometimes you have to. Yeah, so this is the, okay, I know where this is, and there's nothing back there as far as I know. This would be, houses would have road frontage right on that. Would be my guess. They have to, I mean, I don't think there's any other supporting material roads. Yeah, we need the right of way there. That would be the only way to get around to. Yeah, so it would actually be right where that part of it's all on the other side. And I mean, it could create some traffic issues. I don't think it's anything major there. Yeah, I haven't seen the plan, but.
Where are they interested in developing?
No,
They just commented, they let us know that,
But they would like to.
all to be one.
Well, yeah.
Where that house that's been under construction forever?
No, yeah. That is for,
Okay.
To do it south of this?
it looks south.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is the other.
That's actually, so that is, there's an old Solomon that comes in down to 56. It's like the first piece on the left. There's a further piece up, there's where old Solomon's is on the west side. It's the first one on the east side. And there is, I mean, that would be substantially, they'd have to create a entrance right across. I don't see that as pretty traffic. If they, I mean, you know, like I said, this is more of a technicality than.
Essentially, again, the recommendation for these 3 properties, again, is to make it all one consistent zone. To make sure the properties that are designed to be, or supposed to be zoned open space, again, there's floodplains and parks. We want to make sure that the OS represents the map. That's, staff is going to recommend an RA for all of the parcels we saw. Now, the question is, to the group is, does the group agree with that, or are there concerns or other recommendations? Agree.
Anybody opposed?
Okay, moving on, there was a consensus for those 3. We'll move on to the new zoning applications. These are the ones that we sent to you ahead of time. We survey monkey. 13 of 15 of you submitted your responses, so thank you. There's one more than last time, so even better. So what I did in this and what we did in the next couple slides, again, very similar to the last discussion zone, was how I took the percentages of yeses, put it here on each of them, except the Batesville 4, which is Homestead Gardens, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But essentially, There was a group consensus already with this, regarding the survey monkey results. However, we can talk about it if you want to, then it would sound like there's a conversation. But for the locally in 401, which is the latter one in Bayfront, staff was recommending C1 is what the owner requested. So, again, staff recommended what the owner wanted, and at this point, the group agreed about 77%. For Davisville 008, this was one that we already previously discussed, I believe, at the minute office. They applied initially for C1. We all discussed it. We both recommended a small business designation. The owner of the property saw that, I guess, and revised their application to request the small business as well. So right now, if assuming the SAC hasn't changed their mind, we're in line.
Yeah, I spoke with their representative and Woods, and basically what's going on with that, dentists that are right now and retire self-practice. But right now, the current zoning limits them, they're operating out of basically a residence. Right now, the current zoning limits them to 1 story of the story structure. And in order to really make it saleable, they explain the space to get a lot of equipment. So, I mean, I would expect this to be, maybe they get a little more traffic there, but they have to parking. It's on a major artery. It's not, I don't see a problem.
And then finally, the last application that we were able to get data for you all is Davisville 400, which is one that was a new application applied for small businesses right off the Fence Highway, next to the area where the SAC, where you all do staff, we recommend small business, and we'll talk about that again. That's one area the staff wants to visit with you all, since it was the only one in the group did not have it.
These are all, they were gonna look at the public comments when they came in, so we were public comments for those.
Yes, I sent those to you all, what's your all message, sir?
Oh, yeah, I remember, yeah.
So a couple things on the first one. I was one of the ones opposed. However, the property owners come out, basically, this is any work. I was still caught. When I saw that one, if you were to have asked me before we started this committee, what area of South County was the biggest anti-development, it was that area. And I say that because they bought off the Target, they bought off Renfest, they effectively bought off Riverdale Baptist. That area does not want to see any large scale development. What I don't want to see, then you have to remember out one, so 50,000 foot strip mall. And one of the things that still blows my mind about this is the abandoned time that we get laid. So we've got a property owner sitting here right now that says he wants to build a daycare center. I have no reason to got that, living on the dated property makes total sense. I do have some concerns with the roadway. Where you're cutting that road is, you're probably well aware, there's concrete to hit the exit ramp to get onto essentially 794 and quickly on 258. I would be a little concerned with traffic now coming out of that road. You can make a left, but then what you're doing is you're headed back up north. You're making a right where people don't expect you to right. Most people that are making rights there are doing it from, the exit ramp to the westbound ramp. So that's a little bit of a concern with access, kind of how you work that. Obviously, you don't want to have access off Southern Maryland Boulevard, which is an exit ramp. I think I doubt it. The state's not going to allow.
Thanks, Sue. That's a good point. This were to be resolved, and if they care where to come. Yeah, the development review process would answer a lot of these questions. They would talk about where to access.
Yeah.
So while these are very valid points, I think they would also be identified and addressed through that review process. Okay.
Would a small business designation allow for daycare?
So the small business designation, that was a great question.
Yeah.
Yes, it does, it is permitted in small.
I mean, I would personally be more comfortable with you might run a daycare for 20, 30 years, you might move out of the area, you've got a C1 parcel, also you've got a third.
So one thing from a staff point of view, the small business designation is designed to be more of a transition from a commercial or industrial area, to more of a residential. And while there is obviously a commercial industrial area, it would be, I would not call this a transition. For this one piece of property, I don't think this is a transition to the remainder of the area. So I think staff would have to go back and really think about, would small business work here from a staff point of view? If that's something you all recommended. Now, you all can recommend whatever you want. If you want to make it R22, maybe R23. But I think over staff, we'll go back and we'll reevaluate if anyone said here or not. But right now, staff's recommendation is to, for that one piece, exceed.
And for
But isn't
transparency,
that residential way promote?
yeah, for transparency, I just wanted to explain the layers, which I think will address that question. So right now, I turned on the base map of an aerial view, so you can see some of the trees or the agricultural area underneath the colors. Then the more, like translucent, like kind of see-through shades are the adopted zoning. And then the things that are the stark, like, very distinctively filled in colors, those are the staff zoning. So you can see that this is that you guys are the property owner. You can see the other areas that were previously applied for are down here. And then this area is the new application. And you're looking at staff's recommended zoning at this.
Can you go back to what we already voted, what we voted on for it?
So this property, we have not voted on. But
I thought it was yeah,
yeah, so 77% of you all agree to C1 next to board. Okay.
I live right down the road from there. My family has grown up here, and I really appreciate what this, is out here doing, for the community. I think that, while seeing the development is very difficult for me and for, speaking for myself tonight, I think that I have 3 young children who grew up in the area, and I enjoyed having daycare locally. I will say that the best daycare that they had was in-home daycare. And so for my preferences, I would personally prefer to see that RA or SD, and I think it could be a transition area because you're putting in brand new housing right there. And so the housing is there, and so we're transitioning this entire property to something that it's never been before, at least in the long term that I'm aware of. And so for me, it is a really hard push to go to C1 from trees. And that's just me as a person. I'm not speaking for this whole group here. I think that imagining C1 there and what can happen when this young man is no longer, I do trust that he absolutely has the intention of putting a beautiful daycare there that would probably be amazing. And I think an in-home daycare would also be amazing and be quite a viable business. So I am opposed to C1.
I have something to add to in terms of the daycare. Look, I'm wondering if residential agriculture limits them at all, because I look at a facility like Reef Trace that has an entire school and they are RA, and I'm sure they had to get substance exemptions to get that. But like the fact that you can have that wonderful facility that my children attend, which is like a top notch, like really great, and that's still RA. I do wonder if there's any way they can work with what they have, currently, or if that was just like a special thing for that church. It really is. Reef Trace is a church, but they have like a daycare, or it's a few schools, so they've got 2, 3, 4, obviously kindergarten, and great playgrounds, like really nice.
Is that the one on 214?
Yeah.
So, according to the childcare seniors, other than a home, other than a home occupation, would be a special exception.
Okay.
So I will respectfully disagree with Anna. Believe me, I know what you're saying. I live a mile away. But it's at the end of an exit ramp, I wish no farming. And yeah, if whatever his name is here dies, it doesn't care, and they make a little strip mall. I mean, who cares?
I do.
I kind of do too.
I agree. I understand your point.
Houses that are gonna be there, or to be a big Well, other than here,
Yeah, you're still on.
can somebody explain what how SAC would be worse than the one for the property owner?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually, I'll pass that to Phil, because again, I don't know the specific plans, anything of that nature, but I mean, I think there are different restrictions regarding setbacks and the size of the building, stuff of that nature. So there are limitations in small business, but anything additional, I'll pass.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate having an opportunity to clarify this issue. Yes, there are differences between small business and C1. Both uses are permitted in both districts. Excuse me, the use, the subject is permitted in both small business and in C1. The primary difference is the lot coverage requirements, the setback requirements, and there's another thing that is required in small business, that any structure that is constructed has to have certain things that are done to it with an architectural standpoint that make it look like a house. Okay, you have to do that in a small business. You're not required to do that in a commercial district. Okay, so it's going to put limitations on what kind of things that could happen with regards to that. So if you do build a home, if you do build a structure, it's going to have an appearance of being residential.
So I have a question. What would the setback be? Like, I'm driving up the exit ramp, or I'm driving down Bayfront. How far back does the structure have to be?
I'm going to have complete ignorance of that particular question. I believe it's 15 on the side, 25 front, 40 in the rear, but I'll have to look. I don't know that right now. I don't have it in my head. We have to look at that. The setbacks are not that.
It's 2 acres, so it's not.
It's not yet. We got plenty of land to work with, so there's a lot of opportunities here for buffering and for landscaping. And any trees that you remove are going to have to be replanted on the site or mitigated in some fashion. So I think the opportunity is there for making sure that this is a well-screened site. And it's not the other here.
So, you know, Hannah's concerned, I am too. I mean, you know, we all live there. As far as, and I guess it's kind of going to compare more than anything else, is we don't want to bring cars sitting there, so it's like a strip mall. Oh. Are you gonna take care? Yeah, or if the zoning's changed, like Hannah said, I think there's things, but he's going on.
Well, the big argument related to all of that is that planners, and I was one for 37 years, we like smooth transitions. We like to paint colors and format. So you do have C1 property across the road, so it only makes sense that we would continue that color across the road to this particular part. But you don't want that's not what I'm saying. But the color of the map is what we like to see.
Right, I think it's pretty clear that the C1 there is clear because it was on the old road alignment. And so, you know, now you only have actually one operating business for three. I think
the question is not whether the need for C1 has gone away, it's whether the need for this bigger use that was occupying that spot.
Well, that's true as well. You should go to the property.
So coming back to
It actually requires that it look like a house, that's what that.
so I think that's a group discussion.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like, but, so I think.
I think like, you know, we spent the last 10 months doing a lot of discussion on TV, South County rural, and we went through, I don't know how many different zoning applications, and there was a large discussion at your barn last time about, you know, once you start here, it moves this way, and then we talked a lot about that, closer to, you know, off of 424, closer to Crofton. So, you know, my thought I had is that core value of our group is really keeping these areas rural and ensuring that, you know, RAs and communities have no help. We went through so many of these, and a lot of people agreed with OPC's recommendation to keep most things RA, even when there were people that have retained individuals in Davidsville and said, my family's gonna live on this farm, we wanna subdivide, and we do this thing. That they can build houses, and a lot of us consistently said, okay, let's keep that RA. So I just definitely think when talking about this, just remembering, like, regardless of, you know, the surrounding, like, in this specific group that we're in, that was a big part of the process.
It kind of sounds like there's three options on the table. Sounds like maintain the current zoning, or maybe a small business or C1. And from my point of view, from staff, is basically serving my results, it kind of seems like C1's the way, but I think the group needs to have a motion discussion about that before we move forward. So if there was to be a motion about specific zoning,
I would like to make a motion that we consider a small business, including necessarily no, that I will look at the survey monthly that.
We have a lot more information.
sure, of course.
Yeah, and I,
Oh, well, I'm saying you can't be excited as far as people, I mean, even if you don't,
live in our area, and this is a very.
I'm saying, you know, we talked a lot about, the Cox Road, we talked a lot about.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that was right next, that was just in case we just had that. So, kind of thinking. How
Well, I
do
don't
you,
think that, we didn't say anything that.
right, we had such a.
Yeah.
Right now, we have a pending motion. We have a second.
Yeah.
So now we have a motion on the table to make a recommendation. Does anybody have any discussion about that recommendation to move forward with SB on this particular property?
And for clarity, the particular property is on where the cursor is currently, which is on the south side of Bayfront that is shown in pink right now.
So I will tell you, originally, when I came here tonight, I was for RA, I was for SB. I still wouldn't support it.
So support for SB, but not C1. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Raise your hands, fine, just.
All opposed? For SB, for the motion on the motion on the table right now is to recommend SB. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you very much.
Since we're here in this area, this is something you all can say absolutely not to, because we've already discussed past. If we want to revisit this previous application. No, seeing none, then we'll move on.
That's now RA.
Correct, it's good. The SAC and staff both recommended maintain policy. So for the next area, we're gonna go
So
to,
I'm sorry, can you go back a little bit? You still recommend one for that one?
we'd love to go back and discuss based on the night, but I don't see us recommending anything over this case.
Why did you recommend one to begin with?
We thought it made sense given the area, given, again, the commercial cross lane, but it's not, you know, it's not necessarily, utilized in a proper way. It's a continuation, and he doesn't necessarily have an opportunity to acquire that C1 that runs a business.
Public comment, because like you guys said, you wanted to hear public comments when we put out this area that we've already had an application in for. There were a number of comments on this application area, noting that the area could benefit from additional commercial. So that was reflected in that comment.
And we also take in the needs of the community, and one thing we've heard throughout the time of year is need for childcare services, which is help follow out of our recommendation. Now, granted, we don't always take every application word by word, because some people will say they're gonna do one thing, we turn around and do something else. But every little thing we've heard along the way, will formulate the C1.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you go back to that new information? So there were public comments that said the public wants to see their commercial.
We have, we have passed that, if there's further comment or discussion on that, I think that we should consider, Arena.
Well, we're learning that we didn't have all the details.
Yeah.
When we
But
did
the
that.
comment was sent to you all.
We did get. Yeah.
There was a lot of demand, expression of out here.
There's my question. If, when somebody submits an application and they have an intent to do something, there's nothing holding them to that. Correct.
Correct.
So once they get to zoning.
Yeah.
They can do whatever they
Correct.
are allowed to with that zone.
But SB has more restrictions than.
Yeah.
So this very well may be an area where they going back to that one slide showing the different breakdown of how it's represented. This could very well be an area where the SAC and staff have different recommendations. I'm not saying it's not saying it's gonna be, as of right this second, it is, so we will see the SACB small business staff.
One thing I want to point out, a commercial area along the corridor, 2 minutes in either direction. North, you got Oasis, south, you got a strip mall down at 61 Route 4 there. So there are things close by. I mean, I saw 1 or 2 recommendations that they were saying it was too far. 2 minutes is too far, I'm not buying that. You know, for a certain business, yeah, I'll buy that, but,
So moving on, because there, like I mentioned, there was a motion and it passed. The next one is going to be that, the dentist office that we previously discussed. We can pull out if you guys would like, we can move on. But again, this was an application that was initially applied for C1, staff and SAC both recommended small business. Last time we met, they revised their application to match small business.
And right now, it's all right.
Right now, it's all right.
yeah, I guess they have a special exception. That's been there for.
We all agreed on the survey monkey.
It was like 90 something.
Can you zoom out and get me in the. location?
Yeah, so it's 40.
Double A.
Down there.
Oh, yeah, then it's not.
You need me to do more work on it?
So is there any discussion on this? Because we have discussed this before, where can we move forward with the small business? Given the sort of results.
We can report it forward.
Perfect, okay. Next, let's go to Homestead. We're gonna go to Homestead Gardens next, a little bit out of order, then we're gonna finish up with the Defense Highway grant, because there's a new application, as well as the previous system. So, first, I have a few different things about the site. Again, so just, it is currently zoned RA. The application is for approximately 48 parcel, a 40-acre site. I wanted to be zoned as C4. Staff, based on additional research we've done, as we noted in the survey monkey, said we're doing research, we don't have opinion this time, because we need some answers. We were able to come up with what our recommendation is, and staff's recommendation at this time is going to be maintaining RA zoning. Simply because of what we've heard tonight, they can do what they're doing, they can do what they want to do, even though it's with a special exception or conditional use, they can. And we staff recommendation, not to necessarily take away anything, we want to make sure we're not taking away the use that we're currently operating with, but we understand that we to C4, based on everything we've done in the past year and originator alone, C4 would be an assessment, a very drastic, sharp change for the community.
Would any other commercial zoning allow them to do what they want, or they have to do this before?
According to our zoning, so if any other commercial zoning, we're at 3%.
How many parcels is it?
It's technically.
It includes the big one where a lot of their main operations occur, as well as several smaller parcels, so the total is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe.
Totals just over 48, so I'll say 48. But to answer John's question, from zoning, we have, if the site were to be rezoned to C4, any other commercial zoning district, the farm alcohol production facility, and the agritourism activities would no longer be allowed.
People were rezoned to C4.
Or any of the commercial.
Craft brewery is permitted in schools, so what they would probably do is upgrade from the farm brewery to everyone.
building for each of the different parcels, you know, identify what's really, rather than make everything.
Yeah, like, if they're like,
Really.
absolutely, so the DAB's got a portion, and then, unfortunately, this is the last time you all will receive, you will review as a group, a zoning application. However, I would encourage you all to stick with the process, because new applications will come up, either at DAB and or. So it's very important for you all to keep an eye on it and provide public testimony if you really want to provide input on those applications. So is it possible that this owner could come out and say, hey, I just want this half or this section or whatever, PC4, the rest is fine? Absolutely. So there is ways they can revise, but again, I don't know what's.
But we only, the ability is only to zone it on a per parcel basis, right? Like in other words, that larger parcel that's in the middle that includes, you know, the bulk of the equation. We couldn't divide that
So
administratively. then.
if the applicant comes in and says, hey, this section, even though it's half of the parcel, this is what we really need to see for, something we can consider. Split zoning is not best practice. I don't like doing it. Staff as a whole doesn't really care for it, but it is something we would consider if it makes sense. So, and then as we all think, and as we all talk, again, we would need a motion on this, and again, staff recommendation is the RAs.
Did we vote on this on the Monday?
The question on the Survey Monkey was, it gave all the information, is, something along the lines of what kind of zoning category you believe should be here. One of them was C4, abstain, another zoning, pick another zoning category or maintaining R. And I believe by far it was another zoning category, but again, it was before this information was received by staff.
What are the parcels up again?
So there's the main one, Homestead Gardens. There's a few, on the front of the property fronting on, Central Ave. And then there's some over on the west of the property along Birdsville Road that are all part of the application.
And that's the entirety of the Homestead Garden property for your.
On the other side, because they have other sides.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in the gate-
yes, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in this specific region, like, it makes sense that it would continue to say RA as long as they can operate their business. I definitely understand the idea that the one up in Severna Park is a commercial one, but that's also Severna Park, where it's a lot more developed, a lot more commercial on, like, it's on the main highway up there, so that makes sense why there is that distinction, but down here, we kind of have this ability to accommodate them, so I think RA makes a lot of sense.
What's the pink in the upper right?
Yeah.
C1.
What is that? What part of that?
No,
Auto,
Yeah, so
Oh, right,
they've got a lot of fire over there.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like a big store.
C1 is already next door to it.
Right. But it's, I think, less than it.
and then that other little pink on the bottom is that Davidsonville gas station market.
With Shelley Beach.
This is tough because, this is a very nice business and the owner is a very, I think, upstanding citizen, you know, he tries to think about the community and cares about the community. And I think that, you know, the amenities that he's been putting in, are really, I don't know if improvements, but they're nice amenities for the community. So it's nice to see it, apparently thriving. I wouldn't want to stifle that. But C4 does one.
It feels like the choices being presented are the two extremes.
Yeah, very much.
That
Yeah.
perhaps there's a middle ground somewhere, it's really, you know, specifying where people have the designation truly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get the sense that this group dislikes what's going on there. And wouldn't, you know, be opposed to what, you know, continuing happening at this time. So I don't, it's just, it's tough, it's a tough.
Add on to that, one thing that staff talked about internally was, this is a staple of Arundel, right? It's an economic staple, economic driver of the region, we get that. However, the jump to C4, and knowing that they can continue to operate, it was very important to staff. We're not trying to take anything away, we're not trying to make it. But a jump to C4, a lot of stuff could be, go for the doors, that necessarily haven't been open in South Africa.
Yeah.
Right, but the point that was made, if you keep it RA and they continue to operate legally under special exception and or non-conforming. Then could there really be an issue down the road in terms of getting financing and doing revitalization of some of the structures that are gonna need attention, some years down the road? That's a concern. That's a concerning point as well.
Are there other, like, options that could be in play in terms of the other Cs? Or how does
So,
that?
unfortunately, from my understanding, it is the RA or FSC.
But that's really higher problems, right?
Correct.
So you could potentially, I know you don't like to put zoning, but you could potentially zone a smaller parcel like it's 103 or something, and they could potentially accomplish what they need to accomplish that.
So again,
It would be arbitrary for us to even attempt that.
Oh, yeah, they'd have. Yeah.
and again, any ag tourism use they have goes away with commercial use. So the RA is what's key. So if again, if there was like an ag tourism event set up, that's the only commercial they can only do this kind of event, depending on what they want to do.
But obviously, yeah, they can do bigger events, but at the same time, they're the ones applying for it, they know that that won't be allowed, so like, we can't make that decision for them, they're the ones applying.
With, going back to the small business argument, in keeping, some of the structures looking more residential in what is, more residential kind of area, would they still be allowed to do what they're doing under small business?
Not to my understanding. This is one of the cases that it is the jump from the RA.
I think small business would be more detrimental to them because there are significant limits on the amount of floor area you can have in small business.
I think that the brewery aspects to the RA or the C4, there's no C1 to for the rest be, I could be wrong.
There's a farm brewery and there's a craft. They're saying that they want to continue with what they have. But if they did go to C4, they could upgrade. I haven't said that in the application. They can also turn around and sell the property and it could be a Royal Farms and a car dealership.
What is the limitation on, if you've got the designation, special exception or conditional use, and you're operating legally, then why is there a restriction?
Correct. If you expand your special exception, you have to go back to the administrative hearing officer with an application, having hired a civil engineer, having hired an attorney, maybe a land use consultant. It's a big venture to get there. If I'm right, then maybe everything can be done in the Office of Planning and Zoning, or it can be done simply at the Department of Inspections and Permits. You may still have to get your civil engineer on board, but you may not have to hire quite a project. When you go to the hearing officer, it's a bigger deal. It's definitely a bigger deal. Because it's a public hearing process.
Would a different commercial designation give them a more seamless process to go for it? In other words, even if something that they want is not in, let's say, a C1, C2, or C3, but that were something that they could figure out, basically, that would work, would they then have a different?
I don't think we can analyze all the other commercial districts to say, well, could you do this on this chunk? And, we have not done that.
My question.
Yeah, and
You're right, you get, they go get more special exceptions on this.
Well, I think C4 is the only commercial zoning category that allows for a craft brewery. RA is the only category that allows for a farm brewery, maybe RM, but RA, what they have allows for brewery. I think C4 is the only commercial zoning category that allows for no time.
I think for Anna's question,
Yeah.
it depends on if especially, if what they're looking to do is even permitted by special exception in that C category.
right.
So we have to analyze the chart for, Phil said they have 9 distinct things that they do. We'd have to see, okay, so for this distinct use, it's a special exception in this C, like C1, for example, or it's a conditional use in this one. And then for special exception, they'd still be in the same boat. They'd still have to come back to the AHO. So having that commercial, if it's a special exception in commercial versus a special exception in residential, from my perspective, I don't think you still have to go to the AHO. You still have to hire all of those people. AHO is the administrative office. If it's a conditional use, then you still have to meet all of those conditions. So I think what they're looking for is to be able to do things by right. I don't think like trading one commercial to, if it's still a special exception in commercial versus special exception in RA, you still gotta do it.
Yeah, and, you know, looking at it from a business perspective, it would seem as though it's a commercial operation, it would be a lesser, potentially less. But I don't know, I just have a question. It is a difficult one, I have to recuse myself from the vote due to conflict of interest, so I encourage the conversation as much as possible. And if there were an opportunity to ask any more questions, if we needed to, perhaps we could ask Mr. Hager.
I have a question. So, you had mentioned that when they go through the exemption process as RA, there's like a public hearing about it?
No,
Or, okay, it's, how does,
well, okay, during RA, if they need a special exception. So let's say right now they have a 2,000 square foot building. And they've been very successful and they want to expand to 4,000 square feet. They're gonna have to go back and amend their special exception. The special exception is written very specifically for the use that they got approved. So it is, those reviews first start in the Office of Planning and Zoning where a recommendation is made, and then it does go to a public hearing with the administrative hearing officer, where anybody from the public can come in and testify.
so for me, I live on Harvard Road, like 3 minutes from here. I think the ability to have the public be able to make comments on things like this is a really like wonderful opportunity for us to do our civic duty. And I think that clearly they haven't had any issues to this point, right? Like I've seen the Fall Fest go from like a half full parking lot to now every year it's a completely full parking lot. So there is clearly a return on investment that they're getting for this. So because of all of that and knowing that they can continue their operation as is, I again don't really see a need for them to go anything above RA. Because I do think it is always good to be able to have the public be able to voice their opinion when they are concerned. And obviously C4 is a huge jump for this area.
Did we get any public comment on this one?
There was no, this was submitted during the public. But for however possible, as we heard tonight from a DACA representative, the application has been known to the public, apparently DACA is in opposition.
Right.
So we need to, now again, there could be a no recommendation from the group as well, that's perfectly fine. But again, there would be, before we move forward, before we move on forever, we need a recommendation, we need at least some type of motion from.
I'll get my 2 cents worth of. I make a motion, as much as I hate to do this, next it and keep it all right.
Is there a second?
There's a person on the table to keep the process. Steve, second. All in favor? Again, I have to repeat.
Raise your hand.
All in
All in
favor?
favor,
We already know it.
all opposed? Any refusals?
So there are two.
We have to.
Okay, two. Melissa, and for the record.
So what are the numbers? 612, 6 for us putting a motion to maintain the RA.
All right, so moving on to the final area, right off the fence highway, this is, again, had a zoning application for, a property that's currently zoned RA, small business. 100%, all 13 who responded agreed with small business on this site. And this is an area. You're going to.
Oh, here we go, sorry, guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so, what you're seeing is again, the recommended zoning map, this is what was seen to the public, minus the exception of this is the application. So, this was shown as RX, that's what it was, and staff is now recommended, given the application, to be small business. This area to the east, to the west, sorry, the west, is a zoned, RA applied early on in the process. And that was the area that the SAC did not come up with a recommendation. Staff presented to the public, small business. The results, as noted on the public summary that we sent out to you, was essentially kind of, a lot were in favor, but some were opposed as well. So, based on that, staff, we, from a staff point of view, we still believe small business in this area, being that transition zone that it is, from a heavy industrial, more commercial areas to the west, to more residential areas to the east, staff is recommending to maintain our initial recommendation of small business, as well as a small business on the new application.
Yeah, I remember at our last meeting, we kind of left off the discussion with that one. There was a lot, the property never came out, state hurricanes. Yeah, that's a tough situation, with what's encroached on that property. And how it happened, let's not even get into it, but it did happen. I think, as I said at the last meeting, drive along that 450 corridor, headed through there, transition, very, very.
How did we vote for survey?
Initially, you did not have a recommendation on this area.
In the survey for the one specific property, you all voted for small business, all of you did. Every responded.
Small.
For the one property that applied after the rest of them.
That's the one where there's currently a daycare or something, right?
Okay, so the daycare, sorry, give me 1 second. So the daycare is on this long one, and that's an existing application that you all discussed and did not have a recommendation. There was also a recommendation on a couple of properties, including this smaller one right on the fence, the one below it, and the one next to that one. These were all existing applications you guys discussed at our last meeting and did not come up with a recommendation. Or sorry, you voted to no recommendation.
I think weren't they were in for like mixed use, right?
Yeah,
And then that's what the public comment.
Yeah, and so then,
Everybody said, then you said the comments were split, right?
Well, the public commented on small business.
Oh, small business. Oh.
Yeah, staff to the public, staff showed a recommendation of small business in this area. The owner at the time previously to that applied for mixed use. We all agreed that, I think the SAC as well, agreed mixed use did not work, and that makes sense. Staff thought that small business was ideal here because of the transition zone. The public comment was able to comment on the small business.
and then
And
after.
it was mixed.
Yeah, it was mixed. And then after that public comment came in, or like at the same time, but we got a new application for this singular property where the cursor is requesting small business. So we do not have feedback on this particular property because it came in while feedback was occurring. We got feedback on the surrounding area and those existing applications.
But on the survey monkey, we all agree with all this.
Yes,
For this.
for the one where the cursor.
Yeah.
Yes.
How much the total acreage here?
Approximately 2.2 acres.
That's the small.
Yeah.
You're right, all of it. It's like 12 something.
It's 11 or 12, yeah, it's like the 3 parcel line, I think.
the whole area.
Are we?
Well,
what are we discussing
I
right
think
now?
we're just discussing the small one right now.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we need to break this down. The small one, small
The
one,
small one may be a domino of what you do with the rest of the area as well, because it may not make sense, if the group recommends to maintain an RA here, it may not make sense to have one location, small business.
I mean, a small business one has road. Couple of them don't. May or may not be.
It's the same owner, but
Yeah, for the three that, well, I don't know if it's the same owner that we discussed now.
There are multiple owners in this area, so these three are the same owner.
Yeah.
And then the others are different owners,
those three don't have road.
and the one does, and then
Yeah.
the same owner owns all three of them, and I also think in terms of like road frontage. I think all of them are requesting the same thing eventually, most of them have requested small business, so I think that, you know, they're neighbors, they know each other. They may, you know, work something out without really road frontage, you know?
My only concern is that road there, defense highway, is single lane each direction and already clogged. Backing up at times from 424, putting more business there.
So
That's my only
originally,
concern.
the request came in as mixed use, has that request itself been revised?
Yes, so the owner, we spoke with the owner via email, and they are actually happy with the small business recommendation. Would like to see the request for small business.
Okay.
Because I think as you move down back where the commercial actually is, to the west there.
That's actually industrial.
Yeah, but that's a 2-lane each direction road.
Yeah.
Once you get up to where this section is, it goes to Singapore.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
So there is a distinction in roadway there.
Yeah.
Which is also,
It
again,
continues down till you get to.
All the way to the end.
Four.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's single lane all the way.
which again is part of the reason the small business being a transition zone. Because John's absolutely correct. This is where having like a big shopping center, bowling alley, and cedar, and then you got a little bit of land. But then, as John noted, the road does narrow down. And as it narrows down, you know, goes into a more residential area. And small business is designed to do that kind of buffer between homes and businesses. While there would be, yes, businesses here, it would be less intense, it would be more of what we talked about earlier, the potential of looking at hubs, having lower intense uses, that kind of stuff in the small business, rather than a C1 or C2 or C3.
Like there's a forest around there,
No, that's in the commercial.
for the lighting. Other forest that's like in somebody's house.
Yeah, so actually, when we're talking about transition, when you have residential, be adjacent to other commercial, commercial wants to be over more. Right. You have existing residential people, and somebody can outside and do something. So, you don't really say, well, it should look like a house. Generally, it's houses converted into some kind of commercial. So I can see why. Small business, especially with what's needed.
What's the building restriction? Like, is it still one building per 25 on small business? Or what is in this area, what is it?
That's
Or can they put in multiple small businesses on the same land?
On a business. Each property. And then it's very, small business is very limited. I mean, even if a bridge from a residential district to one, but in no way. And you know, there are other parts of the county where we have small business where people are like, I really need to one. But here, you know, maybe the right way to do it. Because it is a more limited district that allows some commercial.
Is there a square footage limitation on the building itself?
Approximately?
Difference between 2 and 1.
Yeah, that means,
And that's no sewer. That area doesn't have public utilities.
Hey, we're,
Without. I mean.
a big.
You're correct, this area does not have sewer.
I kind of think, you know, especially if the applicant has revised the request, and I believe that was probably influenced by the discussion that we had at the last meeting. Given the fact that small business is designed to be transitional, this is the transitional area. So I think in this case.
I'd like to make a motion to rezone this small business.
Can I ask a clarification? Are we talking about the one parcel in particular y'all did not make a recommendation?
Yeah, we have to
on?
vote on that one first.
Yeah, that, yeah.
So
First
what-
one,
I was referring to all, yeah.
but, well, if we're doing it, they're all gonna be the same.
It's separate application. It's separate.
So then, to clarify, because Mike made the motion, so I'm asking Mike specifically. Is your motion referring to just the one parcel highlighted in blue that you guys
No,
have not?
oh,
Okay. And so all of them would have refers to all of the owner applications.
yeah. And it's everything you see currently is own small business. Yeah. Staff, owner applications, everything is small business. Yeah.
So the survey monkey that had 100% is,
Only the blue, but Mike's motion that's
Just
on the
that.
table now is everything that's got the line over it in this.
They're all.
I second that motion.
There's motion in a second.
Third,
Can I see a hands, please, for
All in
that,
favor?
for the FB, for everywhere that's got the red line over it on the map?
John, you have nine, so that's it. What? That made the night a little easier, that's all the zoning we had to discuss with you. Is there anything, again, we still have some time, you don't have to, but is there anything you all want to discuss one final time? Anything else that's looming that you feel like, I gotta talk about it, because now is the time, we have just a few more minutes. If this is the last, I think it's the region.
I feel sorry. I feel compelled to say you know, this is a very deliberate process, for which I believe, I know I am very grateful to have had the opportunity to participate. It's super, super, super important. This is like long range thinking down the road. And I'm a little concerned and confused about the ability to continue to submit applications outside of this process.
Personally, I can't agree with you. I wish applications would be done. I don't think it's fair to you all, who have devoted a year of your time, if not more, to this process. I think it's, I don't like how things play.
I think you give a different perspective. For when the Office of Planning and Zoning, county executives, into county council. The Office of Planning and Zoning will become a secondary player. We will talk with, most likely, we'll have meetings with Ms. Brenda, she's gonna have to get educated, and ultimately, she has all this decision making authority. Anybody who applies for zoning through OPZ, they have an opportunity again to apply to the county council. My position is, I think it's better for us to keep the zoning applications open, even we're gonna get more applications than we're going to. Because then at least we will have done, more research and there will have been more time to hear from the public. Because if we hold and we say we're not gonna take any applications, then you're gonna have a floodgate open at county council, which I think is challenging as well. I mean, every property owner can apply at county council.
For Mr. Hager left the key, if this group would be amenable enough. Another, with respect to homestead gardens. And so, I thought the group would be amenable to that opportunity, even if we were. So it sounds like you, so will have an opportunity to persuade the public if they revise it.
And, you know, I think it's something they may revise it as planning advisory board, or they may wait to county council. I don't know what to do, but they listen to all of this, which, you know, will help them make decisions about how to move forward.
Yeah. We are now.
So if we, so even if we were open to hearing something from anybody that has applied so far, that we have reviewed or haven't, this, our opportunity is now closed. We don't have.
Like in your public comment, you could say, I was a member of the SEC, but now that the SEC is done meeting, I will leave.
Just to clarify, all the applications get brought to the planning advisory board and then to county council, and ultimately the county council makes every decision, but they just,
Well,
they look at this or.
That's gonna be the people of everything that OPC is recommending, all of the applications that. So there are gonna be changes on the zoning map, consistency changes that no one asked for. The council people, like if property owners come in and you're like, I don't want this, I don't want this, the council person can roll that back. They can say, all right, we're gonna go back to existing zoning as a property owner wants. Or, there, for anything that OPC did not recommend fundraising for, property owner can come back in and join the county council and apply.
Right.
And, you know, make their case for why they want what they want.
Sure, yeah, this is like, yeah, this is just kind of like a recommendation of the thing.
That's right. I mean,
But they don't.
Approval authority. And quite frankly, the Office of Planning and Zoning in all the counties in Maryland do not have approval authority. It rests with the legislature, with the county council. So there, you know, listen, there are going to be decisions made at county council, but OPC does, you know, you don't support. But that's just the way the law is written, and this is the way the process works.
So my question as this process continues is the best way for us, if we want to continue to be involved, just attend, like listening into the KB meetings, like how does that work for us as public?
That's a great question. I was gonna lead you to, the next steps. So assuming there's no other conversation on zoning, is that fair to move on to?
Yeah, just last comment, just to clarify, is that anybody here that did think that it might have been a good idea to give credence to the concept of sectioning out parts of big property, the homestead garden property, they can, on their own volition, support that.
Yeah.
Right.
So after being, so while I had to choose myself here, if I would support something of that nature, I could, as an individual, I'm associated with this group.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Here's a quick question, like, accomplish that, but it's a different meeting. But today we talked a lot about that property on, Arundel Boulevard. You know, oh, it's been abandoned, like, at what point can the county, or does the county step in? You know what? This is an abandoned property, the owner's not taking care of it, it's, you know, bad for the community. They're gonna take it over. Does that ever happen?
Somebody's gonna buy the text.
Okay, would say something.
I would say maybe if there's a health hazard or something associated or environment.
They got the buildings, but
Well,
that's it.
Well, no, yeah, no, I know, but there are some places where they do go.
Yeah.
If they're because, yeah.
Your problem, like, we can talk about. Just that there's always been information for every meeting that you all have. If we go up to the PAB, we're gonna continue to have links with our recommendations, our map. It's all gonna be in the same place. Generally, like when PAB, once we get there in September, the top item in the header will be linked for those meetings. And then when we go to county council, like, there will be links again for everything. Because the map that goes to PAB
gonna be different than the map that ultimately goes to county council. I mean, I would be surprised if it's not. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but.
So essentially, if I understand, you've got three parties weighing in. You've got this commission, you've got you've got the planning advisory board. Now, but then the county council makes the final determination.
That gets submitted to the county council is the Office of Planning and Zoning recommendation. And the PAP recommendation will be in the charts.
Okay,
But what we ultimately decide on the right thing, that is what will go forward on the map. And those, you know, the properties where there's disagreement between the SAC, the PAB, and the NRPC, those are the ones that are more highly.
And there's line item veto authority.
By the county executive,
Mhm.
yes, it can. Region plans and comprehensive zoning bills for the property adopted. He has only vetoed two different properties or areas. They were both in Region 4, and one was overridden by the council and one was not. County executive has only had successful veto on one area.
That is democracy at work.
I mean, when we did zoning in 2011, I wasn't here, but my understanding there were, you know, there were a lot more vetoes. So I would say there's been a much larger consensus building process with the SAC, the planning advisory board. And so I would say, from my standpoint, we've been much more successful with this.
So I think to answer part of your question, once we get into, I think, forgot part of it. The next big step is going to be planning advisory board. And first, there will be two meetings in planning advisory board essentially. First, there's going to be a staff briefing to the planning advisory. That's just going to be essentially an overview of what Region 8 is, what the things we discussed generally, and some general overview of the zoning. There will be no public comment on the meeting. So do not worry if you can't make it. We're gonna post that meeting online the following day or so. Public comment, there will be a whole meeting dedicated to public comment. It's gonna be, I think, September 30th. So that's the meeting I would encourage everybody to share, to tell your friends, neighbors, family, whoever, you all. That's the meeting to really go. That's gonna be at Southern High School Auditorium. You'll see sign, again, as Christina mentioned, it'll be on our website. There'll be a bunch of links. And if you guys have any questions or have a question about something, email me, email Jesse, email staff. We'll get back to you. Again, it's very important, as you said 20 times tonight, it's very important to stay along the process. It's not that.
You're down, so we'll be on September 17th where the planning advisory board is free. Because anybody who's not following the process, that's the first meeting slot for Black reporting. So they can have more information.
Correct.
And then you're suggesting presentation. So definitely.
And then, if you're sick on the 30th, if it's your dog's birthday and you just can't make it, we will accept written testimony. There will be a link to do that on the hub site. So please, even though the 30th is the moment to get up in front of the planning advisory board and say your piece, it is not your only opportunity. There will be written comments accepted.
Does anybody really know what dog's birthday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got this.
I can't keep track.
So again, as mentioned earlier, just a little citation for all your. Yeah. Yeah, so other than that, Anna, I don't know if you want to say any word comment.
One last opportunity for a public comment, further comment, questions. The input to the point.
Well, I would say, appreciate you guys volunteering, your time, and then all volunteering. And so it's nice to see, that every county in Town. So, thank you, whether you, support or vote, whatever, those all right there, I genuinely appreciate, your engagement, and, I'm hoping other people can see that. Be motivated, it's nice that we're, online, but honestly pretty cool. Don't engage. Community in some way. Again, thank you for your dedication and, volunteer, the time and, look forward to seeing what you guys do after this.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just want to briefly say it's been a pleasure working with everybody. I learned a ton. And it's just, going forward, it's very useful knowledge and I now have a lot of more contacts in the county.
So thank you, Ron.
Nobody got mad, nobody got hurt.
So, good. Thank you, man. Thank you.
I love it.
We have any time, we'll get your example. No, but thank you all for dedicating time and putting forth your perspective, because all of us do have different perspectives, for sure, and different input, and I think that's critical. Eric and Jessica and everyone back in the county has made it, I think, a much more seamless process, and like you said, we all learned a lot. And it is a pretty extensive process that you all go through, and thank all the applicants too, especially those in the room that may or may not know exactly the way you want to move, but hopefully it's a viable operation going forward for everybody. So thank you for the opportunity to work with all of you, be your presence, and thank you for all the work that you do on behalf of the county, hearing all the different needs of different regions. It's an easy job. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine it's not. So thank you all very much, and I guess with that, we can offer an adjournment.
Yeah, I would just like to say my thank you to staff as well, versus we're talking on there. I won't hammer everything, but, we do this for a living. We like this, we like what we do. I'm very appreciative to work with people that really care about it. It's undeniable the passion you all bring day in and day out meetings and things out. It's really helps me make sure I really understand how happy I am working when I do things like this. So thank you all for making sure my faith in humanity is not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other than that, all we need is a final motion and a second to get.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Really second, on favor.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Party at Honey's Harbor.